Hey, good afternoon. This is Steve. I'm going to do a short video here to address a question that was presented to me by someone on the forum who was having difficulty with how you assign different views to your number keys within XPlane. Um, there is a way, in fact, to assign 20 different views to number keys. And traditionally, these are done with um, the keyboard that I have. I'm on a Macintosh, and I have an extended keyboard that has a numpad on it, which is a fancy name to mean you've got extra numbers over on the side of the keyboard. I don't think that it's necessary to have a numpad. I think you could probably do this with the standard number keys on any keyboard. But you may run into an issue where XPlane has already assigned those keys to perform different functions. And if you run into that, XPlane will tell you, and you can then decide whether you want to keep that particular number instruction or whether you want to change it and make it a view. But here I will walk you through the process of how you assign number keys, be they just the standard 1 through 0 or the numpad 0 through 9. That alone gets a little confusing because the numbers are going in a little different sequence. But the first thing we want to do is take a look at the XPlane control panel. I'm not sure it's called a control panel, but I'm going to call it that. It's the panel that has general sound, graphics, and so forth on it. And you're going to select the keyboard section of that. And you go down the list, and you're going to see views, and within views, you're going to see quick look. When you tap on those two things, you'll see a hierarchical menu. You go into quick look, and you're going to see a whole bunch of different possibilities down here. And you're interested in the last section that begins with go to save 3D cockpit location 1, and then 10, 11, 12, and then you get down to 2 and 20. It's a little confusing. What it is this is all just in alphabetic sequence. So the number 1 is first, followed by 20, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so forth, and so on. There's no cockpit position 0. There's cockpit position 10 and 20. So the two processes, and it's important to remember you're going to be doing two different things here. Number one, you're going to be assigning a number key to perform a function. Number two, you're going to be telling that number key to do that function, or execute, or go to. So when I say assign, that's really memorize. When I say execute, that's really go to. They use the terms go to and memorize. I use the terms assign and execute. So the first part of the process is to memorize or assign a particular number or a particular number plus a helper key to be a particular view. Then you're going to assign that numpad key or that number key to do that. And it may involve a helper key. So I'll tell you where the helper keys come in, and it gets a little confusing, but perhaps the easiest way to do it is just to demonstrate it for you. So I'm going to click out of this screen, and I'm going to hit my numpad number 1 key. That takes me into the cockpit. And by the way, when it says cockpit view, don't worry about that. You can have views all over the aircraft. They don't have to be within the cockpit in order to do it. So here's my number 1 view. Here's my number 2 view. Number 3 view. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then even the 0 view is possible because you have a 0 key, and I've assigned that to be my iPad. So I'm going to go back here to my number 1 view. Let's say I decide one day, I really don't want to have this as my number one view. I'd rather have it look to the side, out the side window over there, past the Copilot. How do I do that? I know that if I press number one, I'm just going to go to what I've already assigned. But I want it to be that view. Well, if I look at how I set up within the control panel, I've assigned a helper key along with the number one key to memorize a particular view. And their helper key that I've used is, in my case, the control key on the Macintosh. You can pick whatever helper key you want. If you're on a PC, it may maybe not be a control key, maybe it's the option or something else. I chose on the Mac the control key, and I'll show you where that is. Go back in our screen here, scroll down, and I'm looking now for memorize position number one. And there's memorize position number one, and it says control numpad 1. So if I'm over here and I want to re-memorize a particular view and I want it to be my number one key, I'm going to hold down the control key and tap number one. And I just did that. All right, so now I look willy-nilly, I'm going all over the place, and I come back and now I hit just the number one key. And there it is. All right, so I say, well, I really made a mistake there. I don't want that view. I want it back to where I was. So I reposition myself right back in the center. I've got it lined up on the bottom nicely. I've got a little bit of the side window. I can see all my instruments up here. That's now the view. I want to go back to that view. All right, hold down the control key, press the numpad key number one. That is now assigned to that view. Subsequently, when I hit the number one, which I have done here, there's number one, numpad number one, that's go to that view. All right, when I scroll around and I go elsewhere and I hit the number one, ta-da, there it is. So you have 10 of those views within the cockpit or anywhere else you like. I have chosen to allow numbers 0 through 9, or 1 through 10 if you like, to be within the cockpit. But there are 10 more possibilities here, and we might want to have some views outside the aircraft. So in order to do that, what I've done is to select a helper key to allow me 10 other optional views. And that helper key that I've chosen is the shift key. So for example, shift number one is that view right there. Shift number 0 is that view right there. Now, in order to do this, again, you need to assign, in this case, 2 helper keys to memorize this helper view. Let me try to describe that a little clearer. If I go into the window and scroll down here, I want to go to memorize position number, let's call it 20. That's going to be Shift Control numpad 0. Shift Control 0. To execute that view, once I've assigned it, or go to it if you want to use that, I'm going to be going Shift numpad 0. And let's see where that is. It'd be go to 20, right there. Shift numpad 0. Now let me show you how that operates. Here I am in my outside view. And I've as I demonstrated, I'm holding down the shift key and I'm tapping the numpad key, in this case number 1, number 2, number 3, 4, 5, 6, I've even got 7 looking out on the wing, 8 looking at the other wing with the engine, and 9 looking in the entryway. So I've got all those extra views using the Shift key. To assign those or memorize those positions, let me go back over here to 0. Now I want to change that to some other view. Let's go this way. I want it to be that view. So now I've determined in order to memorize that position, I use 2 helper keys. In this case, it's going to be the Control and Shift key. I'm holding those down now. And now I tap my numpad 0. I have now rememorized this view to be Shift numpad 0. Not just the 0. Remember, 0 was just this, and 1 was just that. But now we're talking about Shift numpad 0. And there it is. I've reassigned that view. All right, I want to go back and reassign it back to where I was. See if I can find the right position. Pretty close to that. So again, I hold down Control, Shift, and I'm going to tap the numpad 0 key. And there it is. Now I go Shift 1, Shift 2, and Shift 0, and there it is. I'm now back to that. So that's the process. It gets a bit confusing because you've got these 2 different sets of keys, and then you've got various helper keys that allow you to either memorize it or go to it. And I use different terms. Rather than memorize, I use activate and execute. You can pick whatever term you like, but that's the process. I hope that was helpful for you. If it's still confusing, you can raise any questions you have in the comments section below, or send me a note, or send a smoke signal, or whatever, and sooner or later I'll get it. I appreciate you watching this. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you soon. This is Steve. Have a good day.